All right, so knowledge graphs, huh? Looks like someone's been doing their homework. You sent over a ton of stuff, articles, blog posts, even a whole lecture series. Guess you really want to get what knowledge graphs are all about.
Yeah, and especially with all the AI buzz these days, people want to know where knowledge graphs fit in.
Right, exactly. So how about we just jump right in? What is a knowledge graph? Is this just another tech buzzword?
Well, it's definitely more than a buzzword. It's really about taking all that information we have and making sense of it. It's not just storing data.
So it's like, I don't know, giving your data a brain.
That's a good way to put it. It helps you see the connections, the patterns in the data you'd miss otherwise. Think about how Netflix gives you those personalized recommendations,
Oh, yeah.
or how LinkedIn suggests people you might know based on, your connections and your profile.
Right, right.
Even things like complex fraud investigations, they use knowledge graphs to connect the dots.
So instead of just having like a big jumble of information, a knowledge graph shows you how it all fits together.
Exactly. You're not just looking at data points, you're seeing the relationships between them. It's like the difference between having a list of ingredients and having a recipe.
Yeah. The recipe shows you how to use those ingredients to make something delicious.
Perfect analogy. A knowledge graph isn't a flat list. It's more like a dynamic map of your information.
A map, okay, interesting. But what are the parts of this map? Like, how is it put together?
Well, we start with nodes. These represent the things in your data. So like people, places, products.
Okay, so like landmarks on a map.
Exactly. Then you have edges, which are the connections between those nodes.
Uh-huh.
So let's say you have a node for John and a node for Apple. The edge might be works for, showing that John works at Apple.
Okay, so it's not just about the what, but the how.
Right.
But like, how do we know what John does at Apple? Like, what's his role?
Good question. That's where attributes come in. They give you more context about the nodes and edges.
Okay.
So John's node might have an attribute like software engineer for his job title, or maybe 10 years for how long he's worked there.
Got it. So it's like adding more details to our map, more, I don't know, texture.
Yeah, you're building a richer picture of the information. But we also need some rules, right? We can't just randomly connect things.
Right. That makes sense.
That's where ontologies come in. They define the types of things that can exist in your knowledge graph and how they can relate.
So it's like the grammar for your information, making sure everything's consistent and makes sense.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
So we've got our nodes, our connections, details, and rules. This is starting to sound pretty different from those traditional databases I'm used to.
Oh, yeah, it's a completely different approach. Think of a spreadsheet versus like a 3D model.
I see, yeah.
A spreadsheet just gives you the data points.
Yeah,
But the model shows you how everything fits together, how it's all connected in space.
like structurally.
Right. And this difference is super important when you're dealing with really complex information. Think about healthcare, for example.
Right.
A knowledge graph can connect patient records, research findings, treatment protocols, even stuff like billing information.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it gives everyone a more holistic view, whether you're a doctor or a researcher or an administrator.
Right. And it's got to be way more efficient, right?
Yeah.
Instead of searching through millions of records for all the patients in, say, New York.
You just go to the New York node and see who's connected.
Boom. Data normalization in action. That's impressive.
Huh.
But where does AI come into all of this?
That's the really exciting part. This ability to connect and analyze related data makes knowledge graphs perfect for AI applications.
Okay, so how does that work? What's the magic formula?
Well, you see, AI is great at finding patterns, but it needs context. Knowledge graphs provide that context, like giving the AI a map of the world it's operating in.
So it's not just about feeding AI data, it's about feeding it understanding.
You got it.
Okay, so we're giving AI context, we're feeding it understanding. I like that.
Yeah.
But can you give me a concrete example of how this actually plays out, like in the real world?
Sure. Think about using AI to create a personalized learning plan for a student.
Okay, yeah.
A knowledge graph could link all sorts of things: their learning history, their interests, what they're trying to learn right now, even broader educational trends.
Oh.
The AI can then use all that to suggest really personalized learning paths.
So it's not just recommending random courses, it's actually tailoring the learning experience.
Exactly. It's like the difference between having a teacher who knows nothing about you and a teacher who understands your strengths and weaknesses and your passions.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. So we've got personalized education. What else? Where else do knowledge graphs boost AI?
Well, they're also really important for natural language processing. That means AI systems can understand and respond to human language better.
So not just picking up on keywords, but actually understanding the meaning.
Right. It's about nuance, context, all that good stuff.
That's huge. So we're talking about AI assistants that can actually hold a conversation.
Exactly. And this deeper understanding leads to much better search capabilities. Think about it. Instead of just matching keywords, AI can understand what you're really asking and find the most relevant answers.
Like if I ask my AI, find me a doctor who specializes in knee injuries and is covered by my insurance.
Right. And instead of getting a million irrelevant results, it actually understands what you need and finds the perfect match.
Oh man, that would save me so much time and frustration.
Yeah.
So we've got education, language processing, better search. What other exciting applications are we talking about?
Well, finance is a big one. Knowledge graphs are being used for fraud detection and risk assessment. Imagine a system that can connect all these different data points, transactions, customer data, market trends,
Yeah.
and it can spot suspicious activity before it becomes a major problem.
Wow, that's crucial, especially with how sophisticated financial crime is getting.
Exactly. And we can't forget about healthcare. We talked about personalized learning, but imagine that same level of personalization applied to medicine.
Oh, wow, yeah.
A knowledge graph could connect patient data, medical research, treatment protocols, and it could suggest the best treatment for you based on your specific needs and even your genetic predispositions.
It's like, I don't know, taking precision medicine to a whole new level.
Exactly.
And speaking of personalized experiences, what about retail? I feel like knowledge graphs must be huge in e-commerce.
You're absolutely right. Those personalized recommendations you get online, knowledge graphs take them to the next level. It's not just about what you bought before, but also what you've been browsing, what people are saying about products, even things like social media trends.
It's like having a personal shopper who knows your style better than you do.
That's the idea. And it's not just about individual shoppers. Retailers can use knowledge graphs to make their whole business smarter. They can connect customer data, supply chain info, market trends.
So they can make better decisions about what to sell, when to sell it, even how to design their stores.
You got it. It's all about creating a seamless and personalized experience for the customer.
That's powerful stuff. So we've covered finance, healthcare, retail. Where else are knowledge graphs making a big impact?
Honestly, the possibilities are pretty much endless. Smart cities are using them to optimize traffic flow. Manufacturing companies are using them to improve their supply chains. Even scientific research is using them to speed up discoveries.
So any field that deals with a lot of data can benefit from this approach.
Exactly. It's about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture.
This is incredible. It's not just technology, it's about changing how we think about information.
You nailed it. Knowledge graphs are a fundamental shift in how we use and understand information, and this shift is happening right now, all around us.
It's really inspiring to see how this is being used to solve real-world problems. But let's get a little more practical. How can people actually start using knowledge graphs?
That's a great question, and that's something we'll dig into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so I'm ready to get practical. How do we actually start using knowledge graphs? Like, where do we even begin?
Well, the first step is just recognizing where a knowledge graph approach would really make a difference.
Okay.
Are you drowning in data, can't see the forest for the trees?
Yeah, I feel that.
Do you need to make smarter decisions but feel like the information is just all over the place? That's where knowledge graphs can really shine.
So it's about seeing the connections, not just the individual data points.
Exactly. You got to start thinking in terms of relationships. So ask yourself, what are the key players in this situation? Like, what are the main nodes in your information map?
Right.
Whether it's your personal finances or a project at work or even just planning a vacation. Identify those core nodes.
Got it. So I've got my nodes, now what? How do I start connecting them?
Well, think about the relationships between them. What actions connect them? What characteristics define them? Like, if you're planning a trip, your nodes might be destinations, transportation options, and your budget.
Uh-huh.
The edges could be things like flight to, cost of, distance between, and so on.
So you're literally building out the map step by step.
Exactly. But I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a lot of work.
It does, especially for, bigger, more complex projects.
Don't worry, there are tons of tools out there to help you build and manage knowledge graphs. And a lot of them are open source. Some even use visual interfaces, so you're literally drawing those connections on the screen.
Oh, that sounds way less intimidating. So once I've built my knowledge graph, how do I actually use it? Like, how do I get those insights and make better decisions?
Well, you start by querying it, asking questions like, what are the most common connections between these customers and this product?
Okay.
Or which factors are most strongly correlated with project success? It's like having a super-powered search engine that helps you understand the meaning behind the information.
That's amazing. So it's constantly evolving, right?
Yeah.
As you add more data, it becomes even more powerful.
Exactly. It's a continuous learning process for you and for the system. But you mentioned something earlier about graph-based machine learning.
Yeah, that sounded really interesting.
It's cutting-edge stuff. Imagine combining the structure of a graph with the power of machine learning. You could have systems that not only find patterns but understand their significance and even predict future events.
Wow, predict the future. That's getting a little sci-fi.
I know, right? But think about the applications. Predicting disease outbreaks, optimizing energy consumption in cities, even personalizing education in a way that anticipates each student's needs.
So knowledge graphs could help us solve some of the world's biggest challenges.
Absolutely. And we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to come.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We started with the basics of what knowledge graphs are and ended up talking about predicting the future.
I know, it's pretty mind-blowing. But the key takeaway here is that knowledge graphs are more than just a tech trend.
Yeah, they're a whole new way of thinking about information.
Exactly. Whether you're a data scientist or a business leader or just someone curious about the world, understanding knowledge graphs is becoming essential.
So what's the one thing you want our listener to remember from this deep dive?
Don't just collect information, connect it. Look for those relationships, those patterns, the stories behind the data.
Think in terms of graphs, and the possibilities are endless.
That's it. And remember, it's not just about the technology, it's about the people using it to make a real difference. So keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep asking those questions that lead to a more intelligent world.
Happy graphing, everyone.